Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and I'm here to help you reach your potential as a leader and a human being. Welcome to Remarkable TV. Today we're talking about having a great handshake. Are you ready? Let's get started. I've written about shaking hands. I've even done radio interviews about shaking hands. And today I'm shooting a video about it. Why am I doing that? Because you see, handshakes are a way that we communicate about ourselves to others, a nonverbal way that we communicate with others, and it's often the first impression we have of people as well. And I can recall both positive and negative first impressions based on handshakes I had with people. So what can it communicate? The handshake, the simple handshake, what can it communicate? Well, it can communicate our confidence. It can communicate our friendliness. It can communicate our connection with others. It can communicate our warmth. And it can communicate our intention. We'll talk about all those a little bit more as we go. But you know what? If it can communicate those things, it can also communicate the opposite. It can communicate that we aren't warm, that we aren't friendly, that we have no confidence, just as some examples. So what I want to do in this video is give you some advice. I've got 5 pieces of advice to help you do a better job of shaking hands, having a great handshake. Okay, so here we go. The first one is go for the thumb. So when you're handshaking hands with someone else, you want to have your thumb interlock with theirs here. So go for the thumb. Now you don't need to come shooting in like a rocket, boom, but you want to go because you want to make the connection of the web of your thumb with the web of theirs. Go for the thumb. You've all experienced a problem with the next one. The next piece of advice is be firm. A great handshake is firm. A great handshake is not a wet noodle. It is not a dead fish, and it is not a power grab. It's not like the precursor to arm wrestling. It's firm. It's solid. It's confident. It's not limp, and it's not overpowering. Okay. The third thing to make a great handshake is to match them. Now, we spent some time talking about what words to use here to make this point, but the idea is when you shake hands with someone else, you don't want to go a lot longer than them, and you don't want to go real short than them. And if you have a firm handshake and theirs is really limper, then you got to manage that, right? Because your firm handshake feels like a power grab to the other person if they're doing this. So you want to match their handshake at some level, but you still want to be firm and you still want to go for the thumb. So match them. Think about the other person in this and that helps you decide how long the handshake goes and all that stuff. The next thing is the question, add the other hand. Sometimes when you shake hands, you add the other hand on the side of their arm. That does show warmth and connection and friendliness. It may not work in certain cultures. You got to think about this. It may not sort of be your personal approach, and it certainly isn't something you would do all of the time, but there may be times when adding the other hand might be helpful. Sometimes people will add the other hand alongside and clasp. In some cultures, that's more accepted, but in Western culture, that's not usually quite as frequently done. And the fifth point for you is this: shake with eye contact. When you're shaking someone's hands, don't look at their hand. When you're shaking someone's hands, look in their eyes. This is part of the way how you match them a little bit in terms of the length and all that. We're not sawing logs, right? But you go for the thumb and you be firm and you're making eye contact with them, because what you're really trying to do is communicate through the handshake and through this initial moment a little bit about yourself. And again, it can show so many things. Now, before I close, I've hinted a couple of times about culture. So you want to take all of that into account when you do this. From my experience, though, all 5 of these pieces of advice, when taken with the cultural consideration, will lead to a great handshake. Let me close with today's tweet. Your handshake says much about you. Is it saying what you want it to? There's a new video on this channel every week, and every week too, we create a newsletter called Unleashing Your Remarkable Potential. We don't just talk about handshakes, we talk about lots of things to help us be more successful, both professionally and personally. And so we hope if you found this useful, that you would find our newsletter useful, Unleashing Your Remarkable Potential. You can get all the information about how to join us right here. I hope you do that. And I also hope to see you on a future episode right here of Remarkable TV.